I'm back working on the Mustang today. I'm in the basement because it's pretty cold outside and we got 4 inches of snow in the driveway, so I can't work out in the snow. So I'm going to do some of these little things that I can work on down here. So today I got this front side driver door hinge clamped up in the vise. I'm going to install this new hinge pin and these new brass bushings. So the first step is to put the bushings into the holes on the hinge, and to do that you just set it in there and tap it in. You don't want to bang on this too much with a hammer, because you could put it in crooked. So I'm going to put this little wooden block. If you had a brass hammer or something, you could use that. But I'm just going to put this little wood block on top and tap it in that way. That goes in pretty smoothly. Now I'll flip it around and do the bottom end. Okay, now the other side. Kind of moving in the hinge. Yep, that got it. Okay. The next step is to assemble the hinge, and there are two ways you can do it. You can do it backwards, so you need to be careful. You can put the two pieces together this way, or you could flip it around and put them in this way. This is the wrong way. So for reference, I have the hinge from the other side of the car here, and obviously it's opposite hand, but if I make everything look like the other hinge just backwards, with the one hole at the top, two holes at the bottom, and then the opposite piece has this hinge connecting part down towards the bottom, and it goes up. This one is at the bottom and it goes up. Then they match from side to side. And this is the one that came off of the car. I haven't taken it apart, so I know that this one is correct. So I'm going to put my the one that I'm working on together the same way, make it look the same. I can also look at this one and see that the pin is pressed in from the one bolt side. So that means the pin wants to come in from the top. And I know that that's right because I made a little mark on here before. I wrote a P on this hinge to let me know that that was the side where the head of the pin should be installed. So now I can just press this pin in by hand. And it doesn't go in all the way. You can see that it stops here. It has some, I'll back out a little bit, it has some knurling, some ridges around the top of the pin. Because what you now have to do is you have to press this pin into the arm on the hinge. And I suppose you could beat on it with a hammer, but it doesn't sound to me like that's a good idea. So I think what I want to do is I want to try and press it in. And I don't really have a proper hydraulic press. But if you remember, when I took it apart, I used a vise and a big C-clamp. So I'm going to try to use that same setup to press this pin back in. Alright, here's the setup that I'm going to use to try and press this pin in. You can see I got the C-clamp chalked up in the vise, and now I'm going to take the hinge, put it in here like this. I have a socket. Ooh. Try that again. I have a socket that fits over the end of the pin, and it's longer than the pin, so when I press the pin in, the pin can move inside of the socket and it won't come out the other end. So there's a place for the pin to go. And this is just the cup that goes on to the end of the clamp. And I'm just going to tighten everything up. I'll also tell you that I did grease the screw on this clamp so that a lot of force isn't going into just turning, overcoming the friction. So now that that's all set up, I'm going to try and screw it together. So maybe what I'll do is I'll zoom in on the head of the pin, and you can see as I crank it in there if it actually goes in or not. Alright, here we go. The hard part is getting everything to line up. This isn't the world's greatest C-clamp, so try that again. Alright, let's try it again. I think that's really crooked right now. That's the problem. Not really working. It's a good plan, but I have inferior equipment. The bolt on the clamp doesn't rotate. It's not straight, it's bent. So when I try and press the pin in, it goes off axis and it won't go in there. It won't go on straight. It did press it in a little bit. So let me think about a different way to do it. Okay, so we tried to press it in, but that didn't work. I said I didn't want to beat it in with the hammer, but I'm going to give that a shot before I spend all afternoon trying to invent different ways to press this pin in. It might actually be a simple thing to do. I have Colin in here. He's going to help me out by holding the hinge. And we're just going to tap it in with the hammer and see what happens. Gotta stay flat there. How does it work?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay.
Yeah, it's moving, kind of, maybe.
No, it is. Is that all the way down?
Not yet. No.
More?
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going a little bit more.
So that's trust. You don't smash your fingers.
Yeah, I trust you enough. Yeah, there you go.
Down?
Yeah.
All the way?
Yeah, you can give it a couple more taps if you want.
Well, let me look at those. Give me those glasses over there.
I've seen you use a hammer before, and I'm like wild like me. Because if it was me, I wouldn't even. I would be like, nope,
No, that's down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the head is down.
Yeah.
All right, so that works. So you can beat on it with a hammer if you really want to. All I did was, again, I took a socket that was taller than the pin, so that you have a place for the pin to go, and it supports it on a nice firm surface. And we just beat it in with a hammer. Didn't go crazy with it. But now there's no slop in that thing. It's perfect. It's just like the one on the other side. So now, if you want, you can cut this pin off. I actually looked at it when it was on the card. It's not going to get in the way of anything. You really don't have to. But I probably will cut it off just to give myself better access to this bottom bolt. Because if you look at the one that came off of the car, that pin is nice and short down there on the bottom. I don't know why they make this replacement one so long, but I guess it's a universal pin, that's why. Alright, so that's it. That's how you put the pin back into the hinge, how you rebuild the upper hinge on the car.